The New York Rangers just sent a serious message to the rest of the National Hockey League. As we already know, Matt Rempe was a force to be reckoned with last year in training with George Laraque this summer. And now Matt Rempe is training with another New York Rangers star. And who it is might surprise you. We're going to break it down in this episode. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you watching our videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. And that's right. Today we're going to dive into some more Matt Rempe news, and obviously there were reports and lots of stuff that came out just a couple weeks ago about him training with former NHL enforcer George Laraque, former Edmonton Oiler, Montreal Canadian, and obviously knows what to do when you get into a fight in the National Hockey League. So obviously some fans were excited about Matt Rempe training with him. Some weren't because of, people were worried about concussions and all that. And yes, that is something to be worried about. Absolutely. I'm not downplaying that. But I think if you are going to, fight in the NHL and maybe not make it your job, I think he wants to get better at, actually the fundamentals of hockey and all those things, and his stick work and defensive play, all that. I think he wants to get better at that. But if you're going to fight and be that type of player for the New York Rangers, you have to learn how to do it and protect yourself. And he's learning from one of the best in the early 2000s, right? So inside Matt Rempe's training with George Laraque, who tells the Post that the New York Rangers forward will be a different fighter next season. I pity any of these guys that will have to answer to him. And George Laraque went on to say, "Wait till you see," the 13-year NHL veteran said, his smile almost audible through the phone. "I gave him so much information, so much technique. We practiced so much. I can't wait for you to see it. I can't wait." The other things too is they know. The whole league knows what he just did. They know he's not going to be the same. If you look at all my fights, the way that I was very technical. Yes, I was tough, strong, 6'4", all that, but I was a technical fighter. I barely got connected. I never got concussions in my career. I never got knocked out, never lost a tooth, never got stitches, never got nothing. Why? Because of technique. It's not just strength, it was technique. And he's taller than me, so now that he has all of my technique, all my tricks at 6'8", who is going to touch him? And I love that from George Laraque. That pumps me up, and that should pump up any Rangers fan, because that's the thing with fighting. If you learn how to do it properly, you're not going to be ragdolling all over the ice and possibly hit your head, right? Anything can happen at the end of the day, but he's now knows how to protect himself, right? So I think if you were to get into fights and be that enforcer type, maybe not enforcer, but a power forward who fights sometimes, he's going to know how to protect himself heading into the future. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's great. And this is what Laraque went on to say as well. "So I told him, I said, listen, when the season's over, if you want, you can meet up and we'll do this on the ice," said Laraque. And he said, "It's way better on the ice than by text." So a couple of weeks ago, he texted me and said, "Can I take you up on your offer?" And obviously the two got to work. And these are a few things that Laraque wanted to work on with Matt Rempe: how to make opponents worry more than just what you are, battling the anxiety of a fight before it happens, how to calm yourself down, how to prepare your body for a fight, refining the mental approach in all aspects. And Laraque did it all for free because he wants to teach this monster how to be a better fighter, how to defend himself. And we're going to get into it in a second. He wants to become a better hockey player, right? So that's all well and good from George Laraque. Now that he has all my technique, all my tricks at 6'8", who is going to touch him? It's going to be very, very scary. So just to get into one last thing from Matt Rempe as well. He stated at the exit interview and throughout the season near the end that he wants to become a better hockey player. He doesn't want to just be a fighter. And he went on to say, "I feel like I can be a very, very effective bottom six player who is fast, mean, physical, skates well, protects the puck well, goes to the net, and be good around the net," Rempe said. And that's what he said basically on Locker Breakup Day, or Locker Cleanup Day, whatever everyone wants to call it now. "I want to be a good penalty killer and feel like I can be a guy who one day can be on a shutdown line, be very hard to play against, and also create offense around the net by bringing pucks to the net. I have a long way to go, but that's what I'm working towards." And obviously, yes, he is working towards that, because now a report has come out stating that he is honored to learn as much as he can from New York Rangers Chris Kreider. And what a person to learn from if you're going to learn, obviously, the offensive side of the game, right? But some other tips and tricks as well. He wants to get better defensively, like he said, and obviously puck skills and driving the net, all that stuff. And I think Kreider is a very good, he's an effective player in that way. So obviously he did not go to Alberta, back home to Alberta. He's staying to train the rest of the summer with Chris Kreider. So obviously motivation's there. He wants to get better, right? He wants to get better, not just at fighting, but playing hockey. And I want to go in there, earn a role, go in there, take strides from last year and go into camp, work my bag off every day and show them I can be an effective player and show that I've been taking steps from last season and obviously training with Chris Kreider. So obviously he wants to get better at the hockey side of the game. A lot of people were calling for Matt Rempe in the playoffs. Why is Peter Laviolette not playing him? And it's because he can't trust this player, right? Because we saw it last year. There were some times on the ice he kind of looks like he's lost in the defensive zone or in the neutral zone, right? And obviously he doesn't have that offensive prowess just yet. But he chipped in for a couple goals here and there. He scored in the playoffs, right? So I think he can be a very effective player with his size and skill if he starts to work on that. And obviously the fighting, nobody's going to want to touch this guy, right? Nobody's going to want to defend him. He's going to basically have free reign to do whatever he wants out there if he can keep the skill up, because obviously right now there's a little bit, you can see some anxiety in his game. He doesn't know what to do in certain situations and all that. So once he kind of works those kinks out, I think this is going to be an unstoppable player. And like we got into, I mean, these are a couple of things that even Laraque was teaching him about fighting that can just go into a regular game, right? Like it doesn't have to be about fighting. This is how to prepare your body for a game, right? Or, the mental aspect of, approaching game day and stuff like that. These are all skills that you can use towards, actual hockey skills and getting better offensively, defensively, that discipline, stuff like that. These are all skills that he can use in other aspects of the game. So I think that's really great that Laraque took it upon himself to train this player. And like Laraque said, this player is going to be a monster, right? If he puts it all together. Now he knows how to defend himself, how to fight properly, because he got in a bunch of fights last year and he was kind of that enforcer type for the New York Rangers. But, there's a lot of fights that he was having trouble with, and he went up against Ryan Reeves. There was so much revolving around that game with Ryan Reeves and the Toronto Maple Leafs that, it was a blockbuster. Everyone wanted to watch. Is Matt Rempe going to fight Ryan Reeves? And yes, he held his own, but there was a couple fights where, it looked like he probably needed to work on his fighting, and he is doing exactly that now. So it's going to be so exciting to watch with George Laraque teaching Matt Rempe a thing or two, and obviously saying, I pity any of these guys that will have to answer to him, and they're going to have to, right, next season. So, Matt Rempe is going to be on a new level next season. It's going to be exciting to watch. And obviously training with Chris Kreider, back to the hockey side of it, I guess, not so much the fighting, but training with Chris Kreider, puck skills, right, driving the net, stuff like that he said he wants to get better at. We'll bring it up one more time. He wants to be an effective bottom six player who can maybe play on a shutdown line in the playoffs. Imagine a 6'8" player like this on a shutdown line. It's going to be very difficult for other teams, right? If he can take that next step. He wants to be a penalty killer. He wants to take on more roles. I think the mental aspect of that and his mindset is really healthy and really good for the Rangers, because there's a lot of players across the league that just are what they are. And I think Matt Rempe wants to take significant strides, and he's really going to work towards that. He's obviously putting in the work during the summer. We've seen it, and he's working with really good players to be able to do that. So I'm excited to see what Matt Rempe can do next season and seasons going forward, because it's not going to be put together all this off season, right? It's going to take some time for him to put everything together, but he is moving in the right direction, and I love his attitude, and I love the fact that he wants to get better in everything that he's being asked of, and he wants to be trusted. He wants to go out there in a playoff game, right? Because there was an injury last year in the playoff and the conference final, and he played a little bit more than usual, and fans were like, oh yes, we want to see more Matt Rempe, but Laviolette feels like he can't trust this player. So as he continues to work harder, pick up more skill, add more to his role in the lineup, Laviolette will play him more, and I think that's a good thing for him and Rangers fans, because I think we all want to see a little bit more of Matt Rempe and, see what he can unleash next season. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let me know in the comments what you think of him training with George Laraque and Chris Kreider. What do you expect him to be next season and heading into the future? He is still very relatively young and just starting his NHL career, and I think he's going to be a monster if he continues to work at this and work as hard as he has been. So it's going to be very interesting. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.